We are 22 West Radio, the new home of K Beach. 22 West Radio is 22westmedia.com and 88.1 FM, KKJZA.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are 22 West Radio, the next wave of K Beach. 22 West Radio is 22westmedia.com and 88.1 FM KKJZ HD3 Los Angeles, Long Beach. Welcome to another edition of the Golden Spotlight. Yes, the show where I interview people, and it could be people anywhere. It could be all kinds. You never know what kind of guest I'll be interviewing because every week I mix it up. It could be anywhere from being a student to educator to, you never know, any kind of type of field, any type of career, and I get them to share their story. So at this time, I'd like my guests to please introduce themselves.
Good afternoon. My name is Beatriz Gutierrez. I'm the founder and executive director of Soleil Academy Charter School, a primary school in the city of Glenwood, California.
Awesome. So the first thing I like to do with my guests is I like them to start off from the beginning. First, I'd like to know, what was public school like way back then when you were a kid? Like, tell me your story from first being a student in public schools.
Sure. Well, if we're going to go way back, I can start in primary school. I initially was a bilingual student. So I learned Spanish first and then transitioned to English in about 7th grade. Following that, I was placed into an honors course or track in my community and was always involved in really like any extracurricular activities that were suitable for that track or path. And so when I went to high school, I was involved and really was more focused on what can get me to college because I had a strong role model, my older sister, who pushed me to write every night and to practice what college writing would look like upon graduation. So I started taking AP courses in the 11th grade. By the end of my time in high school, I took like 6 or 7 AP courses. I was vice president of Honor Society and then got into extracurriculars such as tennis. And that all, I think, led to what I am now because all of those different various experiences led to me finding my passion and really creating the narrative I have now.
So I always ask my guests, everybody usually has that one subject they struggle with or that was their least favorite subject in public school. What was it for you?
Oh, that's got to be history. I'm not a history buff. I think social studies is very important because history tends to repeat itself. But I just couldn't memorize those facts over and over again because it just wasn't something that I was interested in, but I did love reading and math, so.
And I always ask my guests, like, what kind of strategies did you use to succeed in a subject that you just didn't like?
Repetition. I created flashcards. I would ask others to quiz me, but history is a lot of just simply facts that you have to memorize. So a lot of it was just practicing it over and over again and sort of framing it in a subject that I did like. So sometimes I would write stories around events. That way it was a little bit incorporated into what I like to do, which is reading and writing. But I tried to merge the topics that I enjoyed with the ones that I didn't so that it was something I at least semi-enjoyed doing.
And so I always ask my guests, everybody reaches the point where, high school's gonna end. It's their last year, it's their senior year. Tell me, what was senior year like for you? And, the ultimate question people ask is, oh man, graduation's coming. What's next? Did you know right away what was next?
No. I think as many 18-year-olds in Linwood do is I was ready to leave, but I didn't know what was next. I felt like I'd done everything in my power to set myself up for success in college, but I didn't know what I was going to pursue in college. I didn't know what field was it for me. Obviously, at that point, some topics had sparked interest, but it was all unknown. I think that came about over the next few years and almost decade. But I definitely didn't have an idea of what I was going to pursue right after high school graduation.
So what did happen after graduation?
Reality hit. I went to college. Like I said, I thought I'd done everything to prepare for my freshman year in college, but I found myself taking lots of remedial courses, even in some of my favorite subjects like writing and math. I had to attend office hours. I had to learn how to prioritize my time, which is all very new. I had to learn how to manage my own personal budget, which I never had to do before. And I also think just life skills were all, they were all very new, like living alone, away from home. That was nothing I'd had to experience before my freshman year in college. And so when I moved out to go to college, I didn't know how to essentially take care of myself until I was like immersed into it, and I had no choice but to do everything.
So which campus did you end up choosing? Did you, was there a time where you're like, I got all these schools that are like offering me admission? Was there a struggle as to which one to pick?
I think there was an internal struggle. My sister was, like I said, a really good role model in my life, but she went to UC Irvine, and I was a UC Santa Barbara kind of girl. So when I visited both campuses, I was internally conflicted because I felt like I wanted to follow her footsteps and go to UC Irvine, and both of the schools accepted me, but I really felt at home in Santa Barbara, and it came naturally once it was time to submit my paperwork to just pick the one that I felt in my gut. Yeah.
The other question I ask my guests is, sometimes people struggle with, or not only that, they'll change their minds. Did you have a major change, or did you automatically know your major and you just stick to it the whole way?
Oh, I had several major changes. I thought, why not do global studies or feminist studies, and then sociology? What about psychology? I actually ended up with a lot of them. I was interested in Spanish, as that's my native language. So I minored in Spanish. I minored in applied psychology and education, and I majored in sociology. So I think that's indicative of how uncertain I was, because essentially I wanted all of those pieces. And just to give you some clarity, I'm in education entirely right now, but I do feel that I use everything that I learned in those various fields in my work now.
And tell me, the benefits, like, how did you get to a minor? Like, how did you reach all these decisions and stuff?
Yeah. I traveled abroad. I studied abroad during my time in college. And my major is sociology because I love studying different cultures, different people, and the way that they treat each other, speak to one another, just different societies and communities altogether. That is where my passion does lie, but it also, within studying abroad, I think that made it a very clear understanding. I studied abroad twice, once in Berlin, in Germany, and then another in Spain, in Madrid. So that's what led me to major in sociology.
Was that your first time traveling, to such far places, and especially by yourself and stuff?
Yes, I've been to, before that probably just Puerto Vallarta for a family wedding, but that was my first experience leaving my nest, obviously after Santa Barbara, but I didn't know, I'd never traveled alone, and when I studied abroad the first time in Spain, I had no idea what international traveling looked like, and all of those pieces, like getting a visa and all of those things, I had to learn in the process of it, but I had strong guidance in our study abroad center, but all of that was very new. It was even new for my parents. They didn't feel comfortable letting me go to those places. I recall when I told my parents I was going to Spain, he said, well, I'm not buying your ticket. I thought, well, Dad, with all due respect, I've already purchased my ticket. So he really didn't feel comfortable with me leaving. I mean, I was like 18 at the time when I decided that I was going to study abroad in Spain, and 19 when I actually left. But I would never, take that experience back. It was life-changing. I think all those pieces really help you just like with self-discovery.
And, the other question I ask, I know that you're entering a new school. So you left high school and you're in a new environment. Obviously, college is bigger than the high school. Walk me through your first day, your first semester. What was it like? Did you at least start off with friends, or what happened?
Yes, fortunately, a lot of my friends from my hometown, Linwood, did attend UC Santa Barbara, and so I had like a small niche of friends. But I did feel like it was all a very new adventure as a new adult, per se. But I felt like I wanted to expand my network of friends, and so I would join clubs or attend like those network gatherings that they host, ice cream socials, you name it, I was there. But all of it was new. I think I didn't have like a precedent before that. My sister, she went to college but is also a very different personality than I am. I am an extrovert and I love to be around people and I love to meet others and explore that. But she's more conservative, and so I didn't really know what college was going to be like for a person like myself. And so all of it I had to explore, and it was fun. I think I just had to put myself out there and see what, who I met, see what classes sparked an interest, or what activities or extracurriculars on campus were going to be the path for me.
So, first day, are you undeclared major, or what's going on so far?
Yeah, first day I was undeclared. Yeah, undecided undeclared for like 2 years. Well, as far as they would let me be undeclared. I really don't recall like the time I made the transition, but I was undeclared for quite some time.
How was general ed, the general ed classes?
Oh, they were the worst. I love studying and learning things that I like, but when it comes to studying and learning things that I don't have a passion for, it is the worst thing to study for. I mean, like in high school I took AP calculus, things like that, but when I took statistics in college, I would just like rather yank one hair at a time on my head. It was horrible. And I think of like the methods they would use to teach students. I just like didn't find myself intrigued in their lessons, and I didn't like the topic, the subject, and so it was hard. But I will say that it is important to learn those general education classes and those pieces, because when you go out into the real world and you have a conversation with someone who is a history buff, who is interested in psychology or you name it, you have to have at least the basic conversational skills to hold that conversation versus, oh, I don't know that, not interested, how about them Dodgers, right? Like you can't really shift a conversation like that in real life, and I think taking those courses was helpful. I studied things that I don't necessarily like, but I experienced that in order to have and sustain a conversation with another adult.
How about the sciences?
The sciences, I took very general education science courses. I didn't have to take more than what was necessary because that wasn't part of my major. I can't say I disliked the sciences. I guess it was just a course I had to take. I really don't recall like racking my head over the science courses, but yeah.
And how about when it came to like the required languages? Like, how did you get to your minors and stuff like that? Did you see like a career counselor, or you started to declare each of those things?
Yes, I am. If I am uncertain about something, I always seek advice or seek help. And when I was a freshman in college, I was at the Career Center all the time. I wanted guidance. I wanted to learn more about the different fields, the different majors, what they offered, what they did for me in the long run. and even like financially, like what they look like, 3 to 5 years down the road and 10. So I would engage in conversations with professors around like why they went that route, and I would just seek answers, because if you didn't explore the various majors, it was going to be very hard to define what major was for you. And I remember freshman year we took like Myers-Briggs test, and I forget what others, but it was like a number of questions, and you would answer it, and they would then tell you what, based on your personality traits, what field was probably best for you, and mine always landed in education.
Were there, I know this is, oh, hello from Turkey. Okay, cool. I have an audience member watching. So is that the one with the survey where sometimes some of the results are like way off? Like I remember seeing that generator and one of them said farmer. I'm like, what?
You belong out there with the cows. Mine were pretty spot on. It was online, and I remember taking quite some time with these assessments, but these tests were pretty indicative of what my interests were and my personality type. Like I mentioned earlier, being an extrovert who really enjoys talking to people, building relationships, but also truly value education and the psychological aspect of education. All of these things really unfolded in these exams, and so these questions were targeted. I remember one of the answers was that I would be a teacher or a principal, and I thought, no way. There's no credentialing programs anymore. I don't even want this field. And lo and behold, right after graduation, that was what I had in mind, right? And so even like I didn't know that's what I wanted, but based on my likes. But at the time, it was just I was self-discovering a lot of interests on my end that I really didn't understand what I liked. They were actually pretty helpful.
So the first thing, what came first? The majors, the minors, the decisions and stuff like that?
All of the majors and minors, they all kind of came at the same time. Believe it or not, a lot of those started off as majors. So I decided I was going to major in sociology, and also major in psychology, and also major in Spanish. And I wanted all of them, right? And all of them are still like a true passion of mine, but I couldn't, I mean, if I wanted to end in 4 years and study abroad twice, that was going to be quite difficult. So I went with sociology. I was actually almost done with my major in Spanish, but I got into a program called Teach for America. And the training started in the summer, and in order to have graduated with 2 majors, it was going to bleed into the summer session. So I didn't. I just ended up having that minor, but I think just naturally they started to spark an interest, and I would sign up for the major, and then they slowly became minors, but sociology was the major at the end of it all.
Someone said hello, and then they said hola.
Hola.
So all at the same time.
¿Cómo estás?
So, tell me about the curriculum that's for, getting a minor in a language.
Yeah, that quite frankly started a lot earlier, right? Because I learned Spanish first, and then I learned English. So a lot of that actually was maintained at home, because my parents for Sunday school would take me to catechism in Spanish. And so that helped with sustaining the language in the written format and reading it as well. But in high school, that's when I took AP Spanish and AP Spanish literature. And that sparked the interest again in reading El Quijote or Don Quixote, and all those things, they kind of helped remind myself that I really enjoyed reading Spanish literature. And then when I went to college, when I studied in Madrid, obviously again, lots of Spanish, and those professors I had in college were amazing, and so I continued on with that path.
I know that sometimes, in Hispanic culture, some students, and they're in high school and stuff, they'll be like, I'm going to take the easy way out, I'm going to take Spanish, and some of them will be like, no, I'm going to take another language. Did you debate on trying a different language, or how did you come to sticking to Spanish and stuff?
I can't say I didn't. I think they offered just French other than Spanish. But the decision wasn't as hard at the end. I think I knew that it's not like my education ended there. I did pursue learning German in college because I studied in Germany, and I tried learning Mandarin as well prior to teaching in China. So it wasn't like that was the end of it all. I feel like now it's even more accessible with applications like Duolingo. You just have to pick up your phone and practice. But I really wanted to get Spanish, like nail down Spanish with accents and everything, which is quite difficult to remember.
Especially on the keyboard.
Yes.
How do you
yes.
get the squigglies?
The squigglies. Yeah, so all of those things I had to practice because I knew how important that would be in my career. So I really wanted, especially in California, where there's a high population of Latinos, I really wanted to have Spanish, like a strong Spanish acquisition. Yeah.
Cool. Now tell me, how did the curiosity to study German and Chinese came about and stuff like that?
Yeah, I again, with my passion for cultures, I really enjoyed going to Germany. But prior to that, we needed some basic skills, right? I took a few courses at UC Santa Barbara, learned some basic German just to get me by. And it was a lot of fun. I think in general, making friends and talking to them in German was life-changing because I knew two languages, right? So Spanish and English, but learning German and especially Mandarin was very difficult because it's not, I mean, when you're like 3, 4, 5, you're a sponge, right? You learn it all. But when you are 20, 21, 22 trying to learn another language, it doesn't come as easily.
It's very difficult.
Right. So I made friends and would intentionally talk in German. And I think challenging yourself in that way is the most beneficial to acquiring another language.
Cool. Obviously, the audience wants to hear, some sentences in both German and Chinese.
So this is really bad. But I mean, German's probably the one I remember the most because I was in China for only a month, so the practice wasn't as good. But in Germany, I was there for almost 4 months. Ich heiße Beatriz. I don't even want to go into it.
What about the Chinese one?
What was it? I can't even remember. Yeah, I don't. That we used to count with the students. So I taught. Like it was like American cultures was the name of the class. So we would count through 10. That's not even coming to me anymore, but I would introduce myself. Meine Gabe is Beatriz. Yeah, it was weird. I don't remember it. Sorry, that's not.
I remember trying to take one introductory course to that one, and no, I couldn't get it.
That one
the
didn't
quizzes
stick.
was right away with the symbols. I'm like,
Yeah.
are you kidding? The first quiz, everybody drew symbols and was turning in their quiz. I waited till I was last, and I put the only symbol you ever saw was a sad face.
Oh,
I turned
yeah.
it in literally like that. It's like, what's this? I'm like, I'm sorry, I couldn't get this.
Yeah, like things that come easier, like ni hao, saying hi, conversation skills. That's a lot easier. But when you're saying sentences, it was hard. I learned like a whole 10 sentences. But German, I got a lot more practice in. And when I studied in Spain, I met friends that spoke German from Austria and from Germany. And when I went back to study in Germany, then I continued that practice with them. So that was took a lot more, but because Mandarin was so limited to like 6 weeks, it was very minimal learning in that. But that was also a lot older. I was maybe 24, 25 at the time.
So Spain was also like part of the abroad program, or?
Yes, so Madrid, Spain.
So tell me about this program, the abroad and stuff. How did it come to be? Did you have to pay out of pocket? How do you do that?
Yeah, so there's a UC Education Abroad program. We did have to pay for that, but it was essentially covered the way that tuition is covered to the same percentage, right? So versus taking courses at UC Santa Barbara, I was taking courses in the University of Potsdam, and that just transferred over in the same method. I was receiving financial help at the time, so it was really helpful in terms of paying for that trip. But honestly, I do recall, I mean, I had to take student loans out for those trips, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. I mean, to take 4 months out of your life to go live in another country where you have to pay for like $2,000 for, you know, housing and the flight, it's totally worth it versus when you're an adult, you go for a week and it's an all-inclusive package, but it's like, you know, 1/4 of the time. And you're never as like young and energetic as you are at that age, and it's totally worth the adventure.
And what was your most memorable moments from each of those places? And food, obviously people want to hear about food.
Oh yeah, Spain. I love the paella there. I love seafood, so the paella has all of the things inside of it. Paella was good. So Madrid. My house mom, we have house moms. She was a great cook. She cooked a lot of paella, and then in Germany we had bratwurst. So it was like hot dogs. They were like the cheapest thing, like $1 outside of the metro station. Best hot dog ever. And in China, I can't say I tried a lot of those things. They used to sell fried like insects and spiders and I mean, I tried like fried crickets, but not quite a fan.
So what did you eat during that time?
Boiled eggs, because I have a very sensitive stomach, so I couldn't like eat those foods. They had lots of. It was a different taste. Because I'm Mexican, so I'm very used to eating Mexican food that has lots of spices, but that was a different type of spice, and my stomach couldn't hold a lot of that stuff. Yeah. But I'm trying to think of what plates I did, like hot stew, or they call it like hot pots. Those were good, yeah.
No noodles and rice and stuff there, or is that just here that we see that everywhere?
Oh, like the flat on it. They sell the hot
Yeah.
pots there.
Oh.
Yeah, those are similar here. In California they sell hot pots too, but I generally don't even like pasta, so I didn't go to the noodle side, but some of the hot pots would have some noodles sprinkled in. Yeah. It was good. I think my favorite food of all was probably Spain. I think it was very, you expect to have a lot of like flavorful food, but the most flavor is probably paella. Everything else is pretty bland. But I personally like that food too, yeah.
You know, and obviously the other question that I like to ask guests is, you know, tell us about the benefits, or not only that, though, like some students, they will go straight to class and go home. Did you get the opportunity to like be part of clubs, student government, all that type of stuff?
Yeah, when I was doing my undergrad, I was a part of Associated Students. What was it? The program was CIRC. I think it stood for like student recruitment and initiative something. But anyway, it was essentially to engage minority students in education, and because at the time we saw a lot of minority students drop. And so we would host events, like especially during study hours before finals, where we would provide snacks for the people, blue books, those bubble sheets, all those things they were provided from this organization. But I worked a lot, so I worked 3 jobs while I was a full-time student. So a lot of the social aspect didn't really come until like the weekends at nights or something. But
That's
it was
the
really
next question I ask my guests is, you know, obviously I asked like, did you work during school? Tell us about the jobs you held during school.
Yeah, just to give you some context, my father at the age of 16 said, you know, you need to learn how to be independent and sustain yourself financially. And so at the time he said, you know, you want to go to prom in 2 years, you want to go to, you know, any senior events, you have to pay for them. So I was working since I was 16, and it just continued on through college, right? Like anything that I needed, laptops, paper, anything, I had to pay for it. And so While at the time it was a bit harsh and I think quite unnecessary as the youngest of three. I felt like he could support a little more, but he really wanted to engrave that I needed to be able to sustain myself. And it helped me because I feel like now I'm much more financially responsible, but during freshman year, I felt like a lot of my friends would get involved in sororities, fraternities. They would go to a lot more socials. And I, like, for one, didn't have the money or the time really to commit to those things, and it was hard, I think, to come to that realization. But I feel like I have something very similar, a very close knit community, who were also gauchos. We graduated together. That I feel is a very great blend of what that is. But we supported each other in that. And working, I mean, when you had finals in like 18 hours was hard because you're thinking about all the things you need to be studying, or like looking at your hands and repeating to yourself, like, any equations you need to memorize. But I think that's what helps you as an adult. I think about now and my position now, and if I didn't understand how to juggle those 3 part-time jobs and being a full-time student, I wouldn't be able to be an executive director, right? Because I manage all of the things, and if I don't have the planning skills to do so, then I can't effectively do my job.
So what were the early jobs like?
The early jobs, I gravitated towards education always. I worked at a private, like a daycare center, preschool center for the children of UCSB professors. And so a lot of that was, I was a teacher assistant for children between the ages of 12 months to 4 years old. A bulk of the time actually was with 4-year-olds. It was a very good job. I think it helped really understand how to speak to children, because when I became a teacher shortly after that, it all came much more naturally because I'd already been trained in that piece. I was a cashier at a Eldon Hawaiian barbecue. I worked for Domino's. I worked so many jobs. I gave samples at grocery stores. Yeah, I mean, they were all campus jobs or nearby because in Santa Barbara it's a very small community.
Obviously, there's always a curiosity for people. What's it like working at a pizza place?
Oh, it's frustrating. You get, at the time I didn't even have online ordering. It was all the phone calls, and so I was the customer service representative, and I'd take orders. People would be unsatisfied with their order, or they didn't get the toppings they asked for, and so you're the first person in front of them, and guess who's gonna hear it all? I get the earful. So de-escalating those situations, I learned very early on. But I think it was hard at the time, yeah.
So after, midterms and finals are the most stressful time for a student. Tell us what midterms and finals was like for you, and what strategies you used to succeed in them.
Yeah, I'm a planner. I would open my planner and literally write down all the things on the syllabus, and as I got the syllabus at the beginning of the quarter or semester. And once that was put into my planner, I would break it down into smaller bite sizes, like read pages X through X on this date, so that I would get to the ultimate goal of having read the entire book by the due date. I wasn't the type of person that could study overnight. I think people do lots of all-nighters in college. That doesn't work for me. First off, I need my sleep and I need to eat on time. So I couldn't do that. And I don't work well under like a lack of sleep or sleep deprivation or having not eaten. So I would plan effectively from the beginning so that it wasn't all cumulative at the end, especially having to juggle my work hours. I needed to input that, and sometimes it was torturous because that meant I had to get up at 5 in the morning to go to the library in a quiet space and study when everyone else was sleeping or having breakfast, with their roommates. But that meant I just had to dedicate the time I needed to in order to get it done.
So you got to live on campus, right? Like
I did.
How long? Like all the whole 4 years, or?
Yeah, I lived in student housing my first year, and then that was literally on the campus, and then the other 3 years was, 2 of them were partial years because second year studied in Spain, second year studied in Germany. So student housing in both for just one semester. And then my 4th year was off campus, and that was, not far, it was still like a 5-minute bike ride because in Santa Barbara you use bikes to get around. But living off campus was probably, it was pretty similar to living on campus with the exception that when I lived on campus I had all meals provided. So that meant I had to cook. But other than that, I think it was a great experience on and off. I really enjoyed being in Santa Barbara, yeah.
So, the moment has come for graduation. What was next? What happened?
Yeah, luckily I had at the time, I already had a job lined up with Teach for America. I always saw signs and advertisements on the floor, on the bathroom stalls to Teach for America, and I thought, that looks like something I'd be interested in. So I learned more about the mission, the vision they had. I talked to other Teach for America alumni and sparked, just wanted to learn more about their experiences. And I really did want to be in education, and I thought, why not give it a shot? Let's be a teacher. All of my tests said I should do this. And at that point, I had 4 years of experience as a teacher assistant in private school. So I went for it. It was nerve-wracking. I moved to Texas. I was there for 5 years. Initially, obviously, Teach for America signs you up for 2 years, and they needed bilingual teachers, so they sent me, and that was it. I was very nervous because I was leaving everything that I was used to. I was leaving my comfort zone, my friends, my family, my everything. And in my culture, it's really not common to do so. Especially now with my family. I have a very supportive, strong, and tight-knit family. And the same goes with my friends. I think they're the family, it's my extended family. I chose them, right? But leaving everything, I think, was probably one of the best decisions I ever made.
Well, what's the reaction of your family?
When I decided to leave to Texas, they were just like, why? I said, Texas has really hot weather in the summer. We have beautiful weather. They saw that I picked up and left Santa Barbara, that I picked up and left to Spain, picked up and left to Germany. So it wasn't a shock to them that I was picking up and leaving to Texas. But they obviously wanted me to come home and teach in LA, but at the time it was very difficult to get a position in Los Angeles because those were they had very little, and they were hard to come across. And I just so happened to be bilingual, so it was, I think they were already determined for where they were placing bilingual teachers.
So comparing California to Texas, what's it like?
Well, I think we're, what is that word I'm looking for? I think people are more chill in California. There's more of a I think there's more time to enjoy and live your life here. You enjoy the beach weather. You see there's more surfers, and there are more outdoorsy things to do in California versus in Dallas. I lived in Dallas, Texas. It wasn't. It's not like you wanted to be outside when it was a scorching 110 or 120 degrees. So really, everything was indoors, and I'm an outdoor kind of person, and I don't think I realized that until I moved to Texas. But I think people were very generous in Texas. They're more traditional. They still say ma'am and y'all, and but they don't walk around wearing cowboy boots. This is a common misconception.
How about rattlesnakes and stuff like that?
No, there are no rattlesnakes in Dallas. You'll find some if you go look for them, but I just feel like it's a misunderstanding. It's a very well developed city, and, yeah, quite populated.
Okay, how about, so this program that you were talking about, did they cover housing, or how did it work
For
the
teaching.
program? Yeah.
Teaching? No. So they essentially set you up for like to teach in a poverty-stricken community. And Teach for America is throughout the nation. They have select cities that they target, and at the time, Dallas, Texas had a larger target. So we had about, I think the number was 200 core members. It's a branch of AmeriCorps. And so Teach for America finds individuals who believe that the educational gap shouldn't exist, and they want people who are willing to try and make the change. But they didn't have like the housing costs, but I mean, however, you're also getting an income, and so it's expected that you take care of your own finances in that sense.
Thank you for all the people who keep tuning in and especially pressing the heart icons. That means they loved watching this video, and thank you for all the people leaving comments. Lots of people saying hello. So, how long was your stay in Texas?
I was there for 5 years. I intended to go for 2. And thought at the end of my 2-year tenure, I am leaving back home to LA. But at the time I had taught pre-K, and I really wanted to teach an upper grade because I saw myself going into school administration in the long run. And I had the opportunity to do so in the same school. My principal was really influential at that time, and said, you know, we really want you to stay, and I think an upper grade would be suitable, and let's try it out. So with her guidance, I definitely took on the challenge. I taught 4th and 5th grade the 3rd year, and it was great. I really enjoyed seeing the different levels of instruction, but also learning it in order to teach it in the long run. But teaching, that was the 3rd, and then the 4th year I became an instructional coach, which is essentially a role that coaches other teachers in their instruction and pedagogical practice. So I coached all of the bilingual teachers in their reading and writing, and it was a school that had pre-K all the way into 5th grade. And then my 5th year, I went to teach at a school across the street, and that was actually when I made the transition from a district school to a charter school. And I was a dean, which is equivalent to a vice principal. Yeah, so those were the 5 years in Texas.
So, the classes that you had to take, was that like child development or what?
One of my minors was education, and so I was exposed to a lot of like response to intervention and small group settings prior to that. But early childhood classes particularly, I don't recall. I'd have to look at my transcript, it's been so long. I feel like I must have taken one class because I remember learning a lot about how, you know, the developmental stages of a child. But they were all embedded in you know, the philosophy or psychology of education.
Oh, cool. So, how did it go about that your time was coming to an end in Texas? Did a new job line up here, or like how did you make the change to decide to come back?
Yeah, so the last year that I worked in a charter school, I worked in the same, when I was in Texas, I worked in the same community for 5 years. 4 of those years were in a district school, and 1 year was in a charter school. And it was night and day difference. I had, it was the same community, but yielding such stronger results than the school I was working with before. And even my transition from an instructional coach to a dean, I had very strong onboarding support and coaching. And so it was given to me bite-sized so that I could manage effectively and lead effectively. So I really thought it was like the world of a difference in terms of how to educate your teachers, because they are ultimately would yield to the strongest results, right? So I thought, why not bring this to my hometown? And I sought out a recruiter for a program called Building Excellent Schools, and spoke to them about my idea for a school in my hometown. And they thought, well, you know, we'd have to learn more about what your vision is and what you want in a school, and to see if like this program is right for you. So lo and behold, like time passed by, I got into the program. The school was approved by the program, and I went for it. And that's when I made the transition here. It was a year-long training to and from Boston and other states in the country. But I essentially toured what are the best and highest performing schools in the United States. And so particularly schools that had high academic results and very low incomes. So I was looking for those schools and seeing and like very looking at the details of what these schools are doing to get the results they were getting.
Okay, and then the other question I asked my guests is, you know, tell us about what would you like your legacy to be, and where do you see yourself after retirement?
Oh, that's a retirement part. That keeps me going. My legacy. Well, I'm the founder and executive director of Soleil Academy Charter School, so essentially that's what I want to be my legacy. That is, it will be a TK through 5th grade school in my hometown. I really want to prove what's possible for the children in my community, and since I've left, I feel like the academic results haven't increased as much as we would like, and families are also leaving the city, including my very own family members and friends who were born and raised there, and I feel like it's such a modern day community, and how, you know, we're in a stagnant place when it comes to education. So I really wanted to change that and bring that change to my hometown. It's a bite size, right? Because it's so small. It'll be a school of 430 students, but the impact that we'll have in a city that small is massive. And we do hope that seeds a very strong academic foundation for our children.
Retirement?
And my retirement, oof. You know, where I see myself in my retirement, I plan to be a yoga teacher. And I plan to sell succulents in a farmer's market on weekends. I don't think I'll ever let go of the different passions in my life. I'm not sure if retiring entirely is for me. I'm sure I'll volunteer somewhere. I like to stay plugged in the community that I live in and the community that I work for. So wherever that is, I'm sure I won't ever entirely retire, but I love to travel, so that's going to clearly be a part of my retirement. I really want to continue to travel to places that I haven't seen before, and get to all the continents I haven't seen.
You know, I always ask my guests also, because like I said, you never know what kind of guests I'll have. It could be from a different field, all kinds of different possibilities. How can my audience reach you?
Yeah, well, they can certainly reach me at my email or website. My email is Gutierrez, BGUTIERREZ, at soleilacademy.org, which is SOLEILACADEMY.org. That's my email, but also check out our website. We're up and running. We're enrolling children now, so if you want to check out our website, it's www.soleilacademy.org, and that's Soleil like the sun in French.
Now, the other question is, tell us what's the difference between a charter school and I guess like a regular district?
A district school? Sure. So a district school is a traditional public school route. And a charter school is still a public school. That means that parents don't have to pay to take their children there. However, we do have autonomy in a few ways. We have autonomy in the people we hire, the curriculum we choose, and in our budget. So that means that we can allocate our funds to the most modern curriculum, right? It's a blank slate, right? So we can hire as many teachers as we can afford year one, based on the enrollment. And we do lots of grant writing and other pieces that are pretty different. It's really just a much smaller version, but we are governed by a governing body, very much like a district is. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I remember going to the career counselor, and I remember that survey thing was like way off. I'm like, no. And so he gave me, he was asking me questions, and I remember telling him, I like just doing a radio show. He's like, yeah, that's good, but I also see that you took quite a bit of sociology, and you took psychology, philosophy, and then somebody said that because at the time Linwood had like a cadet program. And so they were like, working with youth, like it's important, but sometimes they won't like hire you unless you have 12 units of child development. So I ended up getting that on the side as a side thing. Tell us about, like the benefits of that type of stuff too.
Yeah, well, I mean, even when looking at teachers who want to teach TK specifically, they do need 24 units of early childhood education. And the benefits to just continuing learning, they don't end, right? Like if you self-seek these options, they're internally beneficial for you. But I think that's particularly helpful when thinking about your possibilities as a student, right? Because you can lead an after-school program or be a teacher or an assistant. It doesn't really matter, but I think at this age, you're still defining what you want to do in the long run. And taking courses like that is extremely helpful in that defining phase.
In closing also, like right now with the school, do you know yet like when you guys will start officially yet or anything like that, or any upcoming events?
Yeah, so we will be starting in 8 to 9 months now, so August of 2018. I feel like it's quickly coming around. We do have an event coming up. It's Giving Tuesday. And that's essentially where people donate to our cause of bringing a great quality school option for the city of Linwood. And it's a great tax write-off because we're a nonprofit. And so for communities, businesses that do have, or people that would like to donate, it would be a great option. So yeah, that's going to be November 28th. You'll see it on our website.
Perfect. And in closing also, tell us, did you have a mentor, like the benefits of having a mentor and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I don't have a mentor. I have several mentors. In what I'm doing now, I think of all of the things that I'm doing, right? I'm doing marketing, I'm doing board governance, I'm doing executive director pieces like hiring and recruitment. And of course you can't be a unicorn that knows and is an expert at all of these things, but you can certainly have a mentor for all of these, right? So I seek out mentors for any field, especially fields that I'm uncertain of. So if let's see, in life, I think as a mentor, I always had my sister, but I have at this time more than 7 mentors simultaneously. And again, I think it's also important to have that throughout your life, is continually get mentors, seek out that help, because it's all for your benefit.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're running out of time. We're like on the last minute. But I do want to thank my guests for taking the time to be here on the Golden Spotlight. Do you have any closing statement or anything like that?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'm always happy to support another Linwood resident. So see you around the community. But to all the listeners, thank you for also listening to us. Again, if you'd like to get a hold of me, our website is www.soleilacademy.org. Thank you.
Awesome. That concludes this episode of the Golden Spotlight.